Uh, Congrats on the oh, look at you. We left you. We lost Jordan already.
He went just straight up.
There you go. Hey, congrats on the win.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it was
a deserved win. I mean, we lost the game for sure. I definitely do think that there was a lot of weird calls in that ref wise on both sides.
That feels kind of like just how the year's been. It's been a year of weird calls.
Weird calls and lots of weird mistakes and just in general. But what's going on, Rolls?
Hey, Rolls.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Tomlin sticking around?
I'm fine with it, man. I'm not a Tomlin hater. I know a lot of the fan base in general has always been kind of fun, right? Like, especially the diehards, they're always gonna think they know better. But I really can't imagine another coach right now. Like, usually there's some rumblings about a coach that's like, we're looking at, like, Harbaugh is, from Michigan is right now kind of being courted by folks at the moment. And
I'd also be surprised if he wanted to be in the same division as his brother.
Yeah, that too. Although it would make for some spicy.
Oh yeah, I mean, it'd be a fun narrative.
Yeah, it's always you get the narrative, right? But I think Tomlin is a good coach. I have no problems with the way he does. I think he's consistent. Obviously, his record shows it. But I guess that's where the fans are mad. They're like, either he's always just one or two wins away from winning. Like he's always right in the middle. He's always winning, but not like super winning, or But the thing is like, that's hard to get consistency from a coach like that.
Well, and like also, the roster hasn't been there for him for the last 5 years. Like,
I mean, we had after we lost Roethlisberger, and we had all sorts of injuries, and we lost.
Well, then you had the weird stuff with Antonio Brown.
And then we lost all our good players. We lost, like, Palomalu retired, I mean, just a bunch of them. We've squandered some talent because we've had, like, good position for one, but not a good position for another. Like, we don't have a quarterback, but we've got a good receiver, or then we have a good receiver and not a good quarterback or running back. And then we get people like, for example, like James Conner, for example, who didn't perform in the running back position for Pittsburgh for a while, and then he went to the Cardinals, and he's just like freaking touchdown after touchdown. So
lights out.
Lights out. That's the way it works.
So frustrating.
So that happens a lot with the Steelers. You get ex-Steelers go and win their ring somewhere else. I mean, that tends to happen quite often.
Rolls, I'm with you there. Any week where Jerry Jones and Sam Kroenke lose, I'm good with those weeks.
James, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. We're trying for sure.
We are. That is one thing I can definitely say.
Yeah. But yeah, so NFL wise, I'm excited. I mean, I still got my Texans in the mix, so that's good.
Dude, Texans are fun right now. Texans are fun right now.
They're a fun team right now. CJ Stroud is really killing it. Pretty much the St. Louis Blues for years, every player would get a win in the real Stanley Cup. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of teams. A lot of teams like that. I think it's a whatever you feel about the NFL has been over the years. I've got my problems with the NFL. I think I have more personal problems with college than I have with NFL, just because I don't like the exploitation of the students, the exploitation of the hey, come and get a free education, but like not really. We're just gonna like work, work you to the bone. You're not really gonna learn anything when you're here, and then you're trying to go to the NFL anyway. And then you're gonna blow the whole time too. And then you're gonna blow your knee out like your senior year, and then not be able to play in the NFL anyway. Yeah. So, and then you didn't learn anything in college, and then you can't make any money while you're here. You can't do any sponsorship or anything like that. But we're gonna sell astronomical amounts of merchandise and make hand over fist money. I'm looking at you, University of Texas.
Yeah.
and then also pay our coach, like $15 million a year or something like that. But
I saw a podcast the other day where they're saying there's no better job in the world than recently fired college coach.
Oh man.
Like, man, you got that donor money lined up. You got people lining up for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what was it? What was it? The coach for? And again, I know we always do sports talk at the beginning. Just to
sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. But what's the coach for Texas A&M?
Oh yeah.
They fired him.
Yep.
What was it? 4 years into his contract, and he had a guaranteed contract. So I never figured out what was the final outcome, but they had a 30-day window to, like, if they don't pay him a specific amount, like they owe, like it was just a big amount, but he was guaranteed to make his full $75 million, even after firing, because his contract stated that. Like, I don't understand how that works for any job. Like, I can't imagine my job right now, whatever job I've got, like in my contract, they're like, by the way, if you don't do your job very well, we can fire you, but you're still guaranteed to be paid X amount of money. How does that work? How does that work for like, you're a coach? If you don't perform, you don't win, then you get fired, but you still get paid.
Yeah,
blows my mind.
Good work if you can get it, man. Good work if you can get it.
Yeah, exactly, man. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's my problem with college coaches in general. At least with the NFL, like, yeah, there's the college, there's the coach shuffle, and yes, even coaches can have contracts, and you can trade a coach as well. There's
which has been in the conversation more in recent years than I feel like it ever has been.
As it really has been. I've never heard it before, like, until recently, where they're like, oh, well, there's a year left on this coaching contract, so they can trade a coach. I'm like, what? That's weird. I just send you like, But yeah, that's weird, but at least with the NFL, they're honest about their sleaziness, right? Like, they're like, hey, we're gonna fine you for celebration, but then we're gonna play that celebration clip over and over in NFL commercials.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, I mean, that's happened to Josh twice this year.
Right.
He got like a fine and a flag for pointing at a guy while he was running into the end zone.
But then the NFL will take that clip and all over the highlight reels. Next year there'll be some like NFL, purchase for the NFL, and they'll have like Josh Allen jersey, and then they'll show his clip of him pointing. I'm like, didn't you fine me like $25,000 for that? Yet you're still gonna make money off of it? Like we get it. It's all money. I get it.
Have you heard about the Buffalo Pit?
No.
About this? So this is the last kind of sports story that I'll tell about. Right. So since about 5-6 weeks ago, so Buffalo's building a new stadium right now, right? Yeah. And so nearby the current stadium, there's like a open pit where they have started working on it, right? And about 6 weeks ago, I think it was the Jets game after we lost to the Eagles. Guy got very, very drunk at the game, wandered into the pit, fell like 20 feet down, woke up in a porta potty into the construction down there and with no clothes, got out. He was totally fine. Was like a quick news story.
Well, that's a Buffalo Bills fan, right? You're born and you're thrown into a table.
Absolutely, and then you just rise on your own. Here's the thing: every week since then, a new Buffalo fan has fallen into the pit, and so we haven't lost since Buffalo fans have started falling into the pit. And I'm beginning to think we got a thing here. We got a sacrifice to the pit.
So is it like? Are they doing it on purpose, or someone blacking out drunk somewhere and then they wake up in the pit?
Who can say? Who can say at this point?
That's first awesome.
One was definitely not on purpose.
But I, for folks in the show that know, I lived in Syracuse, and I used to follow all the Buffalo Bill antics, and whatever. The Buffalo fans up there are crazy. They are a fantastic bunch of fans, because you have to be committed to be a fan of the Buffalo Bills in November onward, because it's so damn cold. Also, if you saw pictures or video of the game, the Pittsburgh game on Monday, that is pretty common. Once a year, there will be a game where the entire stadium is completely snowed in, and the fans are told, bring your shovel. Yeah. And they have to go and shovel their own seat out. Or they say, hey, fans, we'll give you tickets to the show, or, if you can come and help out to shovel out the entire stadium. And they will show up in like truckloads to woo, we're gonna tailgate and shovel out and get free tickets to the game, and like it's like a camaraderie. I like that.
It's the best.
It's the best. $3 to stop, pay $5 for ticket, $100 for parking, $30. I'm good. Yeah. But this is Buffalo, sir. Those prices are not Buffalo prices.
Buffalo tickets ain't $500.
Yeah, Buffalo tickets ain't $500. No, but Buffalo tickets. I remember pricing out tickets for Buffalo, and I remember looking at tickets for Buffalo and Steelers, and I was just like, man, Buffalo tickets are a lot cheaper. I was like, but the Steelers don't play Buffalo this year, so I can't go see them. I was like, ah. But yeah, I do regret not going to a Buffalo game when I lived up there.
Yeah, they're a good time. I went to the Miami playoff game last year when they were up in Buffalo, and it was the same kind of thing. Couldn't sit down because it was covered in snow, but we had
and Buffalo and the Dolphins are like have no idea what's going on. Kind of like they played at the Ice Bowl this year with the Kansas City. That was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, playoff football is exciting for me. I always like it, and it's a pretty good season. And congrats to if anyone out there is a Detroit Lion fan.
Dude,
it's a feel good story. It's a good story. Like I'm happy for
him.
Whether you're a fan or not of football or whatever, it's nice to see a team that hasn't made it to the playoffs. What were they saying? What was the big news story?
32 years since they won a playoff game.
Yeah, this is the first time in history that a text message has been sent that the Detroit Lions are going to the playoffs because or won a playoff game because they haven't it hasn't happened in 32 years. The entire time that text messaging has existed, you haven't been able to send that text, and now we have. So. Awesomeness. All right, let's roll these credits because we got to talk about this developer conference or this developer direct because Microsoft finally showed up with some games. They got games.
They did.
They got games. That's exciting. Let's play this. Hey everyone, welcome to the Mid-Geek Crisis. It is Thursday, January 18th, episode 227. We are back this week. Look at that, 3 weeks consistent. We're on a roll here, and we will only get better and stronger as the year progresses. Sorry for the late start today. I was out at dinner with family and some friends, and time got away from us, and so whatever. It happens. I'm here.
Life.
Yeah, that's the way life is, folks. But we'll start off strong, kind of run into this show. Today, Xbox had a developer direct. Microsoft this is kind of their new thing. They started last year.
Kind of a tradition for them.
Yeah, it's kind of become a new thing. They're trying to do the Nintendo Direct thing, but instead what they'll do is they'll just kind of showcase the developers, their own in-house studios, but they'll kind of go in and show what particular studio was working on. And there was a lot of things, and we'll talk about all the other things that they announced. But the big reveal is I want to go ahead and share the trailer and watch it live because I watched it once, but it was really good. And this was announced, I think, last year or 2 years ago now. I think Microsoft announced it. It's been a while.
Quiet. There wasn't anything with it.
Yeah, it was just the title of the game, and that was it. And so they announced that Machine Gun Games, which is part of the Bethesda umbrella and all of that. If you're not familiar who Machine Gun Games are, they made the last games that their big games were the Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein, the newer Wolfenstein games.
The newer Wolfenstein games, which are fantastic games. Yeah. Good narrative. They have really shown their chops that they can do a story-driven first-person shooter.
Yeah. And
still have it emotional, because I remember playing that first Wolfenstein, the first one of that new set, and man, from the very beginning you have to make specific choices, and even at the very beginning of that, the choice that you make sets the narrative and tone for the rest of the game.
Yeah, they do two things. They do good narrative first-person shooter like adventures and killing Nazis, and that's sort of
yeah. So looks like so that's exactly right. I was just killing Nazis. That's exactly what they do. So here we are. But let's show this trailer because this looks pretty cool, man. And this is the first time we get to see gameplay, and I'm excited for this.
Let me tell you what you are missing, Dr. Jones. While you were playing your pointless game, I was playing you. You're wondering if maybe you should have built yourself a life of meaning instead of ending up here, dead and forgotten in the sands of Africa.
They should just rename their studio Punching Nazis.
Yeah, Todd Howard's got his name all over this thing.
History. Just different ways to interpret the past.
Wait, Nolan North does a pretty good Harrison Ford.
He does.
Years of humanity's thoughts and beliefs, scattered and buried. Just waiting.
I was so surprised to see it was first person.
To be found.
Yeah.
You can't just run away from your problems, Indiana.
Watch me.
Yeah, the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah, Wilhelm scream.
History, mankind has built sites of great spiritual significance. If you were to draw a line through these ancient sites around the globe, you get a perfectly aligned circle. I've had run-ins with these guys before. Trust me.
I'm curious how combat heavy the game's actually going to be.
Okay, then. Let's see if you can keep up.
What do you mean if I can keep up? Patron of the fallen angels. Protector of the Chukulimani. The Great Circle.
Already better than the last sequel.
Well, so when they did this in the show, they had like the studio guys.
How old that was?
Here you go. They had like the studio talking through it, right? And they were talking about how important it was to live up to the legacy, and they listed like Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and they listed all three of the original movies, and they didn't list any of the newer ones. I was like, oh, that sucks for the folks involved with that. But yeah, I think it looks cool.
So, Rose, that's an interesting take on that one. I think the problem with that is that actors don't want to do it. Actors
true.
don't want to sign off on their voice to allow them to teach an AI to do this, because then whatever studio or whatever paid for that owns that voice, which means that far past post-mortem they can use that.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, I get it. This is in a perfect altruistic world. This is what AI was for. Like, I would love to see, like, hey, it wouldn't be awesome to like use AI to kind of fill in the gaps for certain actors or whatever, or like, get an actor who's can't do the role completely, or he's having trouble because of old age, but they want him to reprise a role, and then that's where AI would come in and fill in the blanks. But that's not the way Hollywood works. Hollywood is so sleazy and skeezy about it that they'll just like, they'll put Harrison Ford's face on like merchandise, and you'll use his voice for like, Blade Runner 17 and 40 years from now, and it'll just
be like to sell Pepsi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I get it.
There was a really weird movie that came out in like 2013 with Robin Wright and I think Harvey Keitel and John Hamm about exactly that. About like Robin Wright was playing herself and like being told that she needs to sell her rights away from like AI. It was called The Congress. It's half animated, half real world, half animated. Super interesting movie. Didn't get seen a lot, but it's basically exactly the conversations about AI and acting that we're having right now.
Yeah. The Congress. That's an interesting one.
But anyways, Indiana Jones, I think it's a really interesting looking game.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is, first off, let's elephant in the room here for any Xbox fan. This is the first exciting exclusive. Again, it is PC and it is Game Pass. So, I mean, there's going to be ways for other people that don't have an Xbox, but Microsoft driven known franchise
Yeah, like big marquee
kind of game and property that they've announced. And this is something like, it's not an unknown, it's not trying a new IP. This is an IP that exists. There's already a fan base out there. Take a fan base that's already there and give them a good game. That's printing money. Like that's the way it works. Also, it's about time to get Indiana Jones back in the role that everyone else kind of took from him.
Since we've had an Indiana Jones
what is it? The Infernal Machine, I think, was the last big one.
Oh wow, yeah, I think you're probably right. That's wild.
So that was like Xbox One and PS2, I think, if I remember correctly.
Xbox 360, or like, oh, you mean the first Xbox, not the Xbox One?
Yeah. What is it? And the Infernal Machine, right? And that one was all right. It wasn't exactly the greatest game. I played that
one. The last Indiana Jones game I played was Temple of Doom on the Atari.
Yeah, Windows, N64, and Game Boy Color.
Oh wow! Well, that's way back.
Yeah. December 15th, 2000 was the release date of that game.
So I mean, it's not often that we get this kind of like you're in the role of Indiana Jones sort of thing. It's been a long time.
Yeah, let me see. What other games have we had? We've had video games. Let's see here. Let's see if there's a list. I mean, one of my favorites is Fate of Atlantis, the old 1992 game. That's such a great point and click one based off of the Scum, the Scum engine. So if you're familiar with any of the Day of the Tentacle and all of that, it's a great game. Yeah. I used to have that on Mac. That's a good one. It's a great game. Lot of good stuff. Man, yeah, I think that's it. Fate of Atlantis. Yeah, I think that was the last one. The Infernal Machine might have been the last game that I remember that. Indiana Jones, I mean, the Lego ones, I think, but those are just kind of like retelling.
Oh yeah, there were the Lego ones, which those were good.
They're good, but they're just the movies in video game form with Lego. So those are fun, but they're not an original game or an original story.
Right. So where are you at with it? Are you like a big Indiana Jones fan?
I'm a fan. I like it, and that's what I was getting at. I think it's about time Indiana Jones. Like, I feel like it's weird that we've never had an Indiana Jones game based on what Indiana Jones does, but yet that particular gameplay style has been dominated by characters that aren't indie. We've got Tomb Raider. The Tomb Raider franchise is Indiana Jones. It's just Indiana Jones as a female, and then like at the same time with like some changes or whatever. But it's,
she's like an archaeologist, right? In the old games,
she's like a treasure hunter / she's rich and she likes finding
that mansion.
Yeah. And then you've got the Uncharted games.
Yeah.
So those are two big franchises that are huge. They're multi-million-dollar franchises. There's been movies on both of those. And here we are in Indiana Jones that's never really had a game based on what he's known for, which is exactly that. Like
that's a great point.
So yeah, here we are, and if this is as good, I mean, it is kind of third person. I mean, first person and third person. It looks like it shifts back and forth depending on the type of gameplay.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if it was like it's first person and then it transitions really seamlessly into third person cinematics.
Yeah,
back into first person. There was some of that in Wolfenstein as well.
Right. But I think most of it's going to be first person, like storytelling, and then third person for cutscenes. I'm wondering if there's ever going to be any third person you control the character in third person.
Or if he's like in a vehicle or something like that, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, we did see some gunplay, which again he did that, and I mean, you did that in Wolfenstein where you're shooting them Nazis. Right. So, and also I'm wondering if the pedigree that is Machine Gun Games, they're known, like I mentioned earlier with the Wolfenstein games. Almost every game, part 1, 2, and then the third game, which is the VR game or the cyber, I can't remember what it's called. It's the twins.
Oh yeah, the Old Blood or something like that.
Yeah. Both of those games have a choose your own adventure path. Like you make a choice, and then whatever choice you make dictates the ending you get in the game. Or so I'm wondering if the Indiana Jones game has that, since it is a movie based game.
It is interesting, like going to what you're saying too about like, we have all these games that are really inspired by Indiana Jones, right? And watching this trailer, it's nice because I feel like, if this game had been announced 6-7 years ago, it would have had some kind of either multiplayer or like live service sort of shoehorned in thing. But because these other games that haven't been inspired by Indiana Jones, these single player things like Uncharted and the return of like Tomb Raider have been really successful, like as single player campaigns. I feel like it's nice. We get this kind of like very just streamlined. Let's do a good single player campaign.
Yeah, I just
indie game.
I feel like not everything, and we've talked about this before, but I feel like not everything needs to be multiplayer these days.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Obviously, we know that works. Sony is making money hands over fists with those franchises. We've got games like God of War, Returnal, The Last of Us. All of those games are single player, third person adventure action games with some RPG elements of some sort. But all in all, it is just kind of a, hey, first person, you play the story and then you're done. Spider-Man. I mean, all of those games are just, they don't need multiplayer. Sometimes they want to add it, just kind of like they announced the multiplayer for The Last of Us, and then they eventually just canceled it. Same thing with, the rumors that happened with the leak, and they said that Spider-Man might have it or whatever. But the point is like, that's not always been their main focus. Their main focus has always been the story and the gameplay. And if Microsoft can pull this off, this will be a great franchise for them to kind of go, like them owning or having the Indiana Jones franchise. In the video game form would be great.
What do you feel like after seeing that, like, would make this a success for you? Like, what would this game need to be for you to be like really excited for a franchise version of it, like another one coming up?
I don't think that question can really apply to me, because I'm already excited for it, because one, it's Indiana Jones that I really like, and two, it's Machine Gun Games, which I've already liked everything that they've done. The question here is people that didn't play those Wolfenstein games, or people that don't own an Xbox. Like, is this a system seller or a game that they're willing to play on their PC or whatever, that they're willing to invest money in purchasing? This is where Microsoft needs to really reevaluate where they're going with this, because if they want to still stay relevant, right, even as a publisher, they either have to publish games that are wanted by someone that isn't a Microsoft Xbox owner. So if they've got a PC, are they going to buy it on PC Steam, or is their gaming PC able to play it? Or is it a title that can sell systems for them on its own? Like, if they don't have a PC, can you bundle this with an Xbox and people go, hey, I want to play that new Indiana Jones game? Give me a bundle.
Yeah, well, and then if it doesn't sell a system, is it at least sort of keeping the subscription model, the game?
Right.
Like,
and of course, that is there. If you have Game Pass already, you're going to have it day one. So I'm a Game Pass subscriber. I'm going to have it day one when it launches. So it'll be out this year, and I'm excited for it. So that has been the plus for early adopters of Game Pass. We've kind of had this trickle of games no matter what. But on the downside, it's also that, hey, we're waiting for these like exclusive games that eventually do hit, and they kind of peter out. And it'd be nice for Microsoft to be in the conversation again in a game, like have a game that's out there that people are talking about playing. Which everyone thought their last game was going to be the big one. And Starfield. I can't even say something. Can't even come on my tongue. And it's forgotten. Like, it's already.
I mean, I will say Hi-Fi Rush was in everybody's conversations for end of the year.
It was because it was a great game, but it's also it was because it dropped so quickly, and it was again part of Game Pass. There was no. That's kind of the thing. It's the Game Pass is a double-edged sword these days. It's, if you're a Microsoft owner and an Xbox subscriber and you own it, it's fantastic for you. But at the same time, because it's almost like, hey, let me just go sign up with an email address and a free 3-month or 1 month pass, I'll play this game and then I'm done. And then you don't pay the $60. So these studios are like, I just feel like there's still kind of a way that people are kind of maybe getting around of paying for the game. They're not paying their $60 or their $70.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see because I know there's been some news stories this week about, like, is the subscription model plateauing? Are developers happy with the cuts they're getting out of the subscription models? And there's like been a lot of back and forth about that. And
Microsoft has the war chest to keep throwing at it, but for how long are they willing to keep money?
It is interesting because it feels like their messaging is like, yeah, no, we're happy to keep throwing at this. I mean, you and I know that that's not actually true. Eventually that will
somewhere's going to go.
So yeah,
I don't know.
But I don't know. I think the Indiana Jones, it's not a property like I'm super excited by it. I like it fine. I don't really have any attachment to it, but I'll definitely play this when it comes out. I think it's this kind of like fluid sort of like fisticuffs and action from a first person perspective thing. You don't get a lot of those, and I think that's I'm interested to try that out, and I'm interested to see how well that personality translates into that kind of context.
Yeah. Let's see. Indiana Jones and the college professorship, the quest for tenure. That one hurts because it never happens, or it's just.
I mean, he would have gotten his tenure back in like the 30s, and they just were handing them out.
Oh yeah. Back in the day, yeah, for sure. We also had So I'm trying to think here that they had a few. There was a total of 5 major games that they talked about.
Yeah. So the list was exciting, like kind of top to bottom. They did. So we got a lot of new information about Avowed, which is the new Obsidian RPG.
So I want to play that one. Here's the overview from their. So I'm gonna play this. I don't think they put out like a trailer more so than just the presentation about Avowed.
Like a gameplay reveal kind of a thing is what it was. It wasn't like a full like a cohesive single trailer.
Yeah, so I'm gonna play that real quick. Let me see where that is. I have it here. While
you're pulling that up, so for those you who may or may not be familiar, Obsidian's a really interesting game studio that was one of the earlier big acquisitions Microsoft made in this kind of Game Pass era.
Yeah.
Obsidian, they make narrative RPGs. They've been making them for a long time. Their background's mostly in that kind of like kind of almost Baldur's Gate style, kind of top-down computer RPG, but they also have made they kind of made their name by making janky but really good sequels to bigger to like big RPGs. So like there was Knights of the Republic 1, which was made by BioWare, and then Obsidian made Knights of the Republic 2. There was
they made part 2. They also, I mean, they took
they made Fallout New Vegas.
Right, and the New Vegas one was big because everyone, like, when you asked people from those titles, from the Fallout 3 and all that, which is their favorite, they're like, "Oh, I love New Vegas," and I'm like, "That's interesting because that was like an offshoot that wasn't."
Yeah, right. And then after New Vegas, they kind of started doing more of their own original IP stuff, but still very much inspired by those things. So they made Tyranny, which was an amazing sort of top-down RPG that I had a lot of fun with. They made
South Park, South Park Stick of Truth, which is like everyone laughs at. They're like, "Oh, that's just stuff," but it's a really good game. Like, it's a good turn-based RPG.
Yep. And then they did the Outer Worlds, which was sort of like a Fallout sci-fi kind of vibe before Starfield was doing that.
Yeah. Well, it's a game that kind of like hit. Everyone talked about it. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's in contention for Game of the Year." I think it was nominated for Game of the Year.
Yeah. And it was a cool game. I played it. I liked it. It didn't stay on the palette very long. I think it was a little bit lightweight in terms of what it was doing, but it was a cool game. And so Avowed is their first big game since the Microsoft acquisition, and so there's a lot riding on it. A lot of hype.
Yeah, this is interesting. I've it's been very quiet for me on this, but yeah, I think they've
Pillars of Eternity. How did I forget that? That's also an incredible game. Pillars of Eternity 1.
Yeah.
Welcome to Obsidian Entertainment. I'm so proud to share with you our upcoming fantasy action RPG, Avowed. Avowed is an adventure into the heart of the
Now, hold on.
Yep. Hit me.
Action adventure RPGs. Are we saturated?
I don't think so. Because here's the thing. Even when she's saying that here, they're meaning something different than like what Diablo means when they say they're an action RPG, or than what because this, you're gonna see this, and this looks and feels more like it's first person. It's more, the gameplay almost looks more like Immortals of Avium that came out last year, where it's like almost like a shooter / like Skyrim thing.
So it's a Skyrim, like is it a Bethesda style?
Yeah, it's the first person, but I wouldn't call Skyrim an action RPG because the action in it is not very good. You're not there for the action; you're there for like the exploration and like that kind of thing. Whereas this, it seems like the action is a little bit more.
So the fighting mechanic feels meaty. Like with Skyrim, it's just like
swing,
and it's
swing,
swing, and then like whatever your stats are is how you kill.
Exactly.
There's no finesse to it.
Yeah, whereas this has like dual wielding of like and wands and like axes.
Where you must put a stop to a mysterious spiritual plague and discover a secret.
I think that it looks incredible. I'm loving like this art design.
We love creating worlds with deep themes, dynamic gameplay,
and here you go.
Reactivity.
Like their resume.
And Avowed is no different. We set out to blend the believable and fantastical to give players a world and experience like no other. It's colorful, it's vibrant, it's strange. It's one of the most incredible settings.
Looks
in the
good.
world.
The color palette is good.
It's so nice. These
One of which has
environments.
a really personal connection to you as the player.
Some of it reminds me a little bit of
the
the kind of colorful environments of Monster Hunter World, which always like felt like such a good place to be. I'm excited.
Of the moment-to-moment fun that comes with action-oriented gameplay and the depth and breadth of choice that you get with an RPG. Here to talk more about Avowed's combat is Gabriel Paramo, gameplay director.
Here at Obsidian, our team's overarching goal is to empower you with choice. So we developed a flexible.
So this is going to be interesting to see how this actually pans out, because I don't think up to this point, Obsidian has made a really compelling action.
Match your loadout to fit
That's
the way
not
you want to
been
play
what I would
from
think of as
moment
like
to
their sweet spot.
uninterrupted. For all battles,
So I'm curious to see how well they pull it off here. I think it looks really fluid and fun.
Against a wide range of enemy types. It's not just hacking and slashing. You're making real-time decisions about when to use your abilities, powerful melee attacks, blocks, parries, and special attacks. If you choose to approach combat with a one-handed wand, it feels quick and snappy when dealing damage to enemies at mid-range. Using the Tanglefoot ability, you can stop enemies in their tracks, giving you the opportunity to focus on weaker or tougher combatants in an intentional and controlled manner. It's important to pay attention to the types of enemies you're dealing with. Some units are extremely defensive, some are brutishly difficult, and others you must make sure you prioritize, or their healing capabilities will.
So one thing about this presentation that kind of stood out to me is this is gameplay, but it doesn't look like it's actually live gameplay. This looks to me like they're kind of set up scenarios for this demo.
Oh yeah. This is definitely like debug, like in their debug scenario. So they set up a small little camp, put a couple of NPCs in, and then kind of show the mechanics and whatnot. For sure,
a little worrying for me because it is supposed to be coming out in the fall, and it's been delayed once already. So
but with those environments, if you can sandbox an environment, you're basically throwing everything that you will be doing in the game all at once. So you can kind of like set an NPC, set his AI, set whatever he's going to do, put a chief, put like a healer, whatever, and then show how it plays.
Yep.
Players will have
as long as all of that works.
Well, and as long as like the encounter design is there, right?
Yeah,
and that's kind of what we
the story and explore the many diverse regions. Some quests in Avowed will have you make difficult decisions with profound consequences, like this side quest you may encounter.
I wonder what engine this is running on.
The third region you'll explore on your journey to the Living Lands. As you're exploring, you come across the bodies of these fallen souls.
I was going to say, I think it's Unreal 5 to the lighting.
Of the battle, it's up to you to determine who, if anyone, is at fault.
Just the four of us. Manu,
which probably doesn't bode well for performance on PC at launch.
Trying to keep Thirdborn safe.
In other words, you're a gang of vigilantes. Not that I'm one to judge.
Here, take my badge. Take everyone's. Our families deserve to know we fought and died for them.
Making the right choice isn't always what it seems. We embrace moral nuance.
I always love these like staged studio shots for these
things. Complicated situations.
Jeff and Kate working in the background.
Rested in the cave by the water last night, and as we were sleeping, we were ambushed by those miserable Zorips. I was so surprised, and it was so dark.
Interesting. Interesting.
I can't face those monsters alone.
Accents. Is Christine usually? I'm so used to like the British accent. This feels like just like any random dude on the street. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
He's gonna.
That I was paranoid.
Got
a dumb baby. I heard it all often and loudly. Wait,
you got to chop cheese.
Why is he not here with you? What happened?
At the end of the quest, you have a choice. When you confront Private,
I think there's parts of this that still feel like, okay, I know we're going to get more polish on it. We're going to need a little bit more polish on it. Like the sound design here, right? Like it's just the voice. There's no kind of music. There's no environmental sound there, right?
Yeah.
It's mixed a little weird.
Oh, so this is a tough time for this because we've got games like
But if you
we've got games like
fled the site of the battle as an act of cowardice, then he might challenge you to
You think of Baldur's Gate?
Baldur's Gate, yeah,
Right.
Baldur's Gate. I mean, it's like you've set the bar here. Here's a game that's been in development. I mean, this happens I feel like this happens to Microsoft all the time. Like,
well, and they made the wrong bet on Baldur's Gate entirely.
Hansen and the team have worked to create a unique, colorful, and dynamic visual style.
Yeah,
earlier, and they didn't.
We
They just
knew
didn't
that
think
we
it was going to be that
wanted the
big of a
Valve
deal.
setting to feel rich, weird, and wonderful.
This is the part that I'm
We
most
found
excited about.
inspiration
The
in
kind
a
of
wide
settings and the
swath
world building
of
that they're doing.
real-world cultures, helping us create a unique RPG experience. By contrasting the vibrant with the dull, or verdant spaces with sickly ones, we can better deliver complex emotional experiences for our players. The
Yeah, I
Living
like that a
Lands
lot.
is a continent of untamed valleys with widely varied biomes, from luxuriant forests to volcanic wastes. And each of those regions itself is a conflux of storied landscapes. All of the regions have a lot of special things.
Yeah, I mean, they've still
associated with
got
them, but I
probably
have a deep place
there's
in my
Landfall.
heart
I'm
for
guessing they're
Shadow
shooting
Shard.
October, November.
As you're
So, I mean,
wandering
this
the
will be
waves
a
of Shadow
this will
Shard,
definitely be a
you
holiday
might notice
title.
off in the distance a vibrant jewel of color. By transitioning from destitute, muted tones
It seems like it's
of a
open world as
wasteland
well.
of sand and marching in towards a beautiful
Although they haven't really
oasis,
come out and said that.
there's the opportunity there for life, for adventure, and even a little danger.
We hope you've enjoyed this look at Avowed. We're thrilled to share more about
Not sure, Tim. I don't know what's going on. Thanks for letting me know. I'll take a look.
I appreciate you coming and finding us anyways.
this fall.
What's interesting now is you mentioned it, like the engine looks clean.
Yeah.
This looks very clean for Unreal. I mean, again, it's Unreal Engine 5 now, not 4. So,
well, and the thing that 5 brings, right, is like a lot more. It's just a better pipeline for lighting and for like
4,
like rendering, like small.
3 and 4 had problems with pop-in.
Yeah.
It always had that, like, you knew it was an Unreal Engine game because it's like the first thing that would show up, and all of a sudden you get all the like shapes, and then the textures would pop in, and then everything was like, and as the draw distance was always kind of funky, so you always had this like look. But that definitely, I'm appreciating the fact that you now look at a game and go, is that Unreal Engine 5, as opposed to going, that is an Unreal Engine game.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
So that's a big one.
Yeah, I'm pumped about it. It's a big exclusive. If it goes well, I think it has like the potential to surprise in the way that like something like Baldur's Gate 3 did. I think it's probably more likely that it'll just end up being kind of in that, like, 8 to 8.5 on the ratings sort of scale kind of game that people like. But I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it punch, because, man, Obsidian's made some really good games in the past that have stuck around. So I'm hoping this turns out to be that.
Same. So here's the thing. So they also showed now I don't know, is this one can count as a exclusive? I guess I'm not. Does Visions of Mana, is that an Xbox exclusive?
I don't. Let me check. They kind of talked about it like it was just the first time it's been on Xbox, so I'm not 100% sure if it's an.
Yeah, because it's just weird for them to show it at this event when it's all about developers, but that's a Square game, right?
It is a Square Enix game, yeah. But it's the first time any Mana game has been on an Xbox at all. And so that's kind of the big pitch. I don't think it's going to be exclusive.
Well, this looks good. I'm a fan of the Mana games.
Okay, yeah.
Mana, however you want to say it. But it's also exciting. I mean, I'm glad that Square's throwing Xbox a bone here.
Yeah, I want to see more out of this. I've not played any Mana games before, so I'm not familiar with the franchise like very much at all. I liked the focus in this presentation they had on like monster design, which was fun. There wasn't a lot about story. Like, I have no idea what this game is going to be about, or who's the main character.
You won't know. I mean, every Mana game has always been very different depending on. It began as Final Fantasy Adventure,
right.
That's what it was called in the US, and Trials of Mana. Yeah,
they're also pitching this as an action RPG, so this is another one, but in a very different style, right?
The Mana series has always been very vibrant. They're very forest, very like tree friendly, magic, fantasy, but in the Japanese style. But they are good games. They do have a good action element. So this looks good, and it's exciting. Again, it's exciting for people that are on the Xbox.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it out. I know a couple years ago when it came out, I took a big swing on Tales of Arise and played my first Tales game, and really enjoyed that. So I'm hoping for a similar kind of like positive experience with Visions of Mana here. And I'll say this for Visions of Mana, or the Mana games generally, they always have killer key art.
Yeah, key art, good art, good styles, and music is always kind of a big one too. And that's just because I feel like the Mana titles don't have to. They have a pedigree, but they also don't have to live up to it. There's not an expectation like Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy has to be like big bombastic. You can't even use the term Final Fantasy if it's not like a big deal. The Mana titles
Mana is like can be a little bit more niche.
Right. They can play it safe or play it more, loose.
Right.
They can take a little more risks. So
it is very cutesy. Like very cutesy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Almost like Dragon Quest kind of, but in a different
Right. But without the Akira Toriyama style art, for sure. Yeah, I mean, here's the art style has always been kind of very cutesy, supposed to be more of a like lower tone, lower stakes.
This is one of my favorite things about these developer directs, by the way, is how much they really do just get the developers to talk about the stuff they're excited about.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to just hear this guy like be like, yeah, man, I've been thinking about monsters since I was a kid. Like, check them out. Doesn't this guy seem really young to you to be the executive producer?
Oh man,
how old is this guy? Is he like 28?
Yeah.
What in the world? What are we doing, Joe?
Well, these guys are like they're like 15 years old, and they come out of like high school in Japan, like with already like specific like degrees of like art, and they jump in as interns, and then all of a sudden they pitch an idea, and then they're like executives. And this guy right here looks straight out of like Final Fantasy himself. He's got like he looks like Sephiroth from like Final Fantasy.
Like a dragon.
Or the Yakuza series for sure. Yorkshire Terrier crossed with an armadillo, like
Pangolin.
Pangolin. Yeah, that's awesome.
He's just like, yeah, we'll smash them together. We'll get this cute guy. I'm like,
yeah,
you did it.
Now look at it. Now you've got like a franchise monster, and you can sell plushies and shit.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
I'm ready to buy all the merch about this thing. Look at this.
I mean,
it's cute.
Looks adorable as hell.
Yeah, look at this thing. Japan's always been very good about fantasy and all that, and then every time we make like a Western style RPG, it's always like overly like knights and like Skyrim-y kind of. I wish someone would make a game in the JRPG style with a Westerner developer in the style of like something like Irish folklore or something, like fairies riding corgis or something.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine with like what was that movie that came out a while ago? Windwalkers or something like that?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. I'm getting the same kind of vibes I was getting off that Avowed trailer, where it's like, okay, this is like debug console sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. The action looks good. The spells look fun.
It's Square. They've got the pedigree. This engine right here is probably the same engine that they use for Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
I mean, you've already got an open world engine with the manipulation of monsters, and you've got area effects and all that, and so it's just like drop in your new style, drop in whatever, and there you go. Run with it.
Holy crap, that looks like the rumor weed. Yeah, like this is the most we've ever seen in this whole thing of this main character that we're going to be playing as.
Yeah.
No further, no elaboration. Don't know who that person is.
ピックリにも注目してほしいのですが、聖剣伝説ビジョンズ・オブ・マナーは聖剣伝説らしさを感じてもらえる
faithful addition to the series.
So, do you have a sense of like how important that is to fans of like the Mana series? Like, is there like a kind of like what do people hope for from it?
I'm not a big enough fan to answer that specifically, but yeah, it's just like the first time the Mana series was next. That's a big one.
Yeah.
今後も様々な情報をお届けしていきますので、ぜひご期待ください。この夏
We cannot wait to set the Xbox community on Forgettable this summer. So it's coming out this summer.
Yeah.
Well, I think any franchise has its memorable marks that you have to hit, like the Dragon Quest series. You have to have specific look. First off, it's always going to be that Akira Toriyama style artwork. You're going to have like certain enemies, like the slimes. They've got to be in there. They've got like all of those. You have to hit those specific check boxes. And then once you hit those, then yeah, sure. I think everything else can be kind of, you can play loose with it. Considering that Japanese RPGs have changed a lot over the years.
Oh yeah.
They all kind of gone to this like real-time action, hit the button, you're actually swinging your sword.
Like ATC kind of thing that
right. As opposed to the turn-based.
Right.
But I don't know. Like I'm sure there's bigger fans out there that might be picking that stuff, and they know that Phoenix Down is in the game, right? Like, like every Final Fantasy's got to have Phoenix Down, and that the resurrection spell, all of these like specific things that are in it. I'm sure the Mana series has all of that, and as long as they hit all of those, I think they'll be good.
Cool. Cool.
It looks great. It looks colorful. I'm glad to see a Japanese developer put a game out on Xbox.
Yeah, and kind of showcase it on Xbox.
Yeah, right? And showcase it.
That's nice.
So that's good. Yeah, man, Avowed, this Indiana Jones,
and then there were two more. So there was Ara, ARA, I think, or Era. What was the name of it?
Which was like Ara History Untold, which I haven't heard anything about.
Strategy game, a new grand strategy game for PC. That looks awesome. Like I love Civ. I'm a big Civilization fan. I've loved Crusader Kings. I've played Age of Wonders. I like all that stuff quite a lot. But it's a hard genre to shake up because
you've got
had it on lock for like 20 years.
Oxide Games. Is this another studio for Microsoft?
Yeah, this is a new studio under the Microsoft brand. So these guys worked on
Civilization 5,
Civ 4 and 5.
Crap.
Is like their pedigree before they made a new studio. And so this is that kind of 4X turn-based game where you have like alternate history, but there seems like a much heavier emphasis on kind of procedurally generated living world that like these things are happening in. And then just like much more engagement on the map itself.
But it isn't
wow.
the same.
I think it looks
it looks great. Like RTSs are games that I haven't played in years because I just haven't been able to have the time to kind of put effort into them. But like games like this are always like you look at them and you're like, man, we've gone so far. I remember playing games like StarCraft and any of the other ones. I mean, your map was fixed and that's what you have, but now you can like zoom out and see like practically the whole planet, and then you zoom all the way in to see one individual like infantry member.
Yeah, this is a cute little moment where the head guy just walks out of the back door while they're in the middle of the
How you doing?
It's been an amazing process.
So this is I mean, we'll see how much this actually is able to kind of like breathe new life into this genre. It's tough because fans of this genre are so demanding in terms of things like balance and like how the AI works and whether the systems interlock together perfectly. So I think it's a really hard genre to make a new entry in without like getting people real mad at you.
At the same time, since these developers have made games that already have the pedigree like Civ 4 and 5, then as long as you follow that same, you might be able to pull a whole new set of people. The Age of Empire games, Civilization. Here's another one.
Yeah.
And give players from around the world.
It just looks so good.
It does. It's great.
I'm going to play this game day one. I'm so excited for this. And this came out of nowhere for me. I had no idea this was on the way.
This is one of those games that like you have to be a fan of this style game, but don't be afraid to pick one of these games up, these style games, and play them. They're usually really good at the tutorial style. Yeah. And these are types of games that you could play and really just kind of lose yourself and enjoy. They usually play at a specific speed, you can play them at like a very chill speed.
Well, and this one in particular is a turn-based thing, right? So you're never having to worry about like, oh, did I pause and something else happened over here? You can kind of take your time to think about your decision.
Thousands of citizens living their lives and reacting to the changes.
So yeah, I thought this was cool.
Players to feel like they're truly occupying the world, leading their people as they thrive and grow. Core to the vision of Ara,
the other thing I like about these games is they always have just the biggest nerds making them.
Oh yeah,
these are the nerdiest people.
Because not only, I mean, on game engine base, they're building a board game.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This is a board game and a video game standpoint, and statistically, they're not even just working with like there's like, look at this. This is math. This is graphs. This is a guy that lives in Excel.
Yeah.
And then like goes and plays a video game, and then they're like,
that's the knock on these games, right? Is that they're just like Excel with better user interface. like is like the criticism, but I mean, I'm all for it.
Did you see that? Did you see that? That was a mech feature. Hold on, I gotta go back to that one because that looked cool.
Like, hang on, I can build mechs.
Scientific advancement.
Yeah, there you go.
What?
Mecha Warrior in the future age. I'm pretty sure this is like unit concept art, which is cool to see. But like, even got like a little like Voltron face.
You're like freaking Gundams up in here. Like,
yeah,
just like Japan is gonna evolve into Gundams. Of course they are. Why wouldn't they? Look at these things.
Absolutely. Yeah,
like,
Civilization never had the balls to do this.
Firing animations. For animation, maybe try an anime style charge. Glowing elements on mecha. Intensify when charging and firing. ASN, anime style Hadouken or Kamehameha for main laser attack.
Go.
Yes.
People what they want.
The choice is theirs.
Oh man, like they're not even like, there's like, yeah, we just want to throw a freaking Kamehameha. Boom, there we go. That's what we want.
Like what I love these strategy games, but I also love Pacific Rim. What are we gonna do about it?
Yeah, there we go.
It's build triumphs. Triumphs are our collection of incredible monuments and architectural achievements.
Yeah, I think watching through the whole presentation, there weren't a ton of things in here where I was like, oh, this is going to revolutionize the genre or anything. But it's always nice to have another entrant into this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, especially because at this point, there's like 10 years between
pack. For it's a new game someone can jump into, because Civilization 6 is like, hey, let's add a new expansion. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But there's already people that've got like, people like Pedro, for example, who've got like 4,000 hours into Civilization 6. And it's just like, yeah, well, I mean,
like that too.
Yeah. If you ever, if you have Pedro on Steam, it's always on. There's always Civ 6 loaded in the background.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
Plays out at a national scale, with players honing and combining the natural resources they harvest into all manner of goods and components. Those are the foundation for everything.
It's so funny seeing this and seeing like, look at these bar graphs. Like, look at all of this, like all of that stuff that you're having to like manipulate and like control. It's you just like, I could distress. I'm over here. I just started playing Cult of the Lamb.
Oh, me too. I started playing that this week as well.
I just started playing it, and so I'm just like, oh man, okay, I got to get my mindset on this like resource intensive. Go and like go mine and go like get lumber to build this and that. So it's like that RTS mentality again.
Yeah.
And this is to the extreme. Like
yeah, this takes it up a notch for sure.
You're like modifying like moods and weather and like
advanced planning.
Little choices and like
see the strategic outcome of all their collective decisions.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Like, let's put a tick box into specific like bits of science, which then allow them to evolve this particular like thing.
And reacting to their opponent's moves. In Ara, all players' actions are resolved at the same time. This rewards players' ability to navigate uncertainty, to predict and strategically plan for a variety of scenarios in the moment. This system makes Ara just feel more real. In a typical strategy game,
that's interesting
once your turn is finished, you have to wait for a long time. With simultaneous turns, generally speaking, those times are very low. You get to keep playing the game and stay.
So that's actually a huge feature because
so like if I was playing against you, we'd both be making our decisions at the exact same time, and when it's done, and then it creates the action, and then you keep moving.
Yeah, and then on the AI side, if you're reducing the time in between turns while the AI is doing stuff, I mean, I don't know if you've played like much late game Civ, but like, whoa,
yeah,
hugs.
It's like chess. There's so much the computational power that it takes to make all the decisions actually does take time.
Cultural prodigies and many more.
Each leader in Aura has a number of special abilities determined by their personality traits.
Yeah, but do we have Mahatma Gandhi? And is he nuke heavy?
That's a good question.
Because if you're not familiar with Civilization, Mahatma Gandhi is like king of nukes, which is like the joke.
May surprise them with how fun it is when those leaders are handed the reins of power.
Yeah, board game. Look at this.
Yeah, I love that.
Look at these nerds. All you are nerds.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
It gives us that priceless perspective from the people we're making Aura for. You.
Building the game alongside real players has
So they also, they're talking about it here, but they also have like an insider program on their website that you can sign up for. And that seems, instead of doing like an early access, that seems like how they're doing their play.
Introduced the concept of dangerous wildlife to the game. It turns out, in our first iteration, it was maybe a little bit too aggressive or disruptive. We knew we should probably make a change when one of our insiders made a forum post that was just
cougars.
I hate cougars.
Someone get these felines.
I love that they share this kind of stuff here. It's so good.
I'm happy to report, based on more recent feedback, that I think we ended up in a good place with the overall threat level of mountain lions to a player's citizenry.
It's been years of hard work to bring you a strategy experience like no other. And we're so excited that we can finally see the finish line. We can't wait for players to get their hands on the game later this year.
But the launch of Aura is only the beginning. We are going to maintain our insider program after the release date and continue to listen to
it almost seems like you're kind of doing like that soft sort of like
it's the early access. It's the hey, let's release the game, but we also get the big nerds that are into this world to keep giving us the feedback. We don't
Which is so
pay
important
them,
but
at the
many
same time, yeah, get the passionate players to kind of give you that's how you do it. Feed your fans. That's I mean the fighting game community learned that very early on. Like give the fighting game, give the engine to the people that are playing professionally, let them play it, let them break it. What works, what doesn't work, let them do the balance. And this is what it works. So that's exciting and that's great. Again, that's definitely a genre that you don't see on Sony.
No, and it's cool to see it showcased here, right? Alongside these other sort of like big franchises and like different. I don't know. I love that attention. I love that like kind of attention to different spaces.
Yeah, and those are the four big ones. The last game that they showed, of course, was Hellblade 2. Yeah. They announced it, and it's coming out in May.
Yeah, not announced. It was just like the next, like the more full kind of, because they had a big trailer for it at TGA. But this was definitely went in a lot more depth. So it was cool to see. But definitely stuff that folks knew was coming.
Yeah. So that's good. I mean, it's exciting. It's we are in January, and we already got some exciting Microsoft Studio news. So that's good. I think that bodes well.
No shadow drop this year, like we had.
No shadow drop, but it is exciting. And you know what? Don't expect it to be done. You know how Microsoft works. Occasionally, they'll shadow drop something on Game Pass, and you're like, "What? Wait a minute, when did that come out?" So heck, I might as well go check now, see if they dropped anything, because they recently add this and that, the other. That's how they do it. No announcement, but that's good still. Oh, what else? Something else. So this is more of my randomness here. So the pre-order for the Apple Vision Pro came out, starting tomorrow, I think.
Yep.
Man, this is an interesting one. So it starts. Pre-order start on the 19th, so tomorrow at 5 a.m. Pacific time. This thing is interesting that we're getting a pre-order tomorrow. No one has used it. At least no one that's not an influencer or a YouTuber or a tech.
Very controlled sort of environments.
All right, the horse testicle animator. That's right.
Oh, Rolls, that guy, he's retired. He's on lock for life. I guarantee that.
I'm sure he's working on like random like pitbull testicles for GTA 6. I'm sure that's a whole engine in its own right, for sure. So the Vision Pro is coming out, and it's interesting that this thing. I mean, let's talk about this. This is Apple's VR headset, but it's not their VR headset.
Don't call it VR.
Don't call it VR computing. Because spatial computing. Not once in their entirety of marketing do they mention the word augmented reality or virtual reality.
Yep.
But it does do both. But it also does more and less. Like it's kind of like this weird thing. And I'm going to speak from a Apple fan. This is interesting. Apple is very reserved when it comes to jumping into a new category.
Mm-hmm.
Either they're all in or they're not. And everyone's complaining about the price, but you also have to take into consideration they did this once before. And the one product that they did this for was that.
Yep.
The Apple Watch. Yes, the Apple Watch from day one did have a consumer level sports model. That is something that the Vision Pro does not have, but they did have the Edition, which was like a $10,000 gold Apple Watch. And the whole purpose of it was, one, it was a version 0. It was overly priced. They put it in the hands of all of these like influencers and media and all of that. Let them test drive it. Let them talk. Let it make the buzz. At the same time, they did have the lower end ones for people to kind of test and kind of get going. And that allowed them to get the feedback, which then created the Series 1 the following year. Yeah. And then from then on now, I mean, you can't go anywhere without seeing someone with an Apple Watch on their wrist. Yep. Like it is now the ubiquitous piece of tech. And it is a big deal for Apple. This is different. The Oculus, they are really touting this thing as a device that you like use like a laptop. Like you use it, you sit down and you do work on it. It is not, they're not making it like the Oculus where it's like, hey, I'm going to sit down and do some Oculus time. I'm going to jump into the metaverse, or I'm going to play some games. This is like, hey, you pop it on and hey, I can open up an Office app, or I can do FaceTime, or I can do communication. And like, this is,
or I mean, it has its own OS, right? Yeah. They designed an OS for it, right? That's go back to your watch example. That's also rare for Apple. And to me, when they've got new OSs launching, that's like them signaling a really big kind of strategic investment.
Yeah.
Right? They're not here to joke around about it.
So this is a big investment for them. I think this isn't meant for the normal individual. I don't think they expect the normal person to drop $3,500 on a unproven product.
This is how Apple does early access. They don't do early access with like the nerds. They do early access with like the diehards that with money.
and developers. They want developers to buy this, invest in it, drop it in your company. What can you do with it? Because we designed all this hardware, but even we don't even know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But you want this. This is something that other companies have been put. So now we're going to take what other companies have made. We're going to give it the Apple spin, give it the polish that Apple is known for. Do the fun, like all of the haptics and the feedback and all of that and the vision and all of that Apple can do that no one else can. Drop all this tech that's way too overpriced for normal consumer products into it on version 1. What works, what doesn't. Again, everyone always complains, oh, the iPhone doesn't innovate anymore. It's the same thing every year. It's like because they don't have to.
Yeah, they
at the same time, they are not going to be the company that drops the newest feature in their phone. They like to see what other people are going to put in their phone. See, Samsung is known for that. Samsung will add every new feature under the sun onto their phone and throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, and then that feature will go away the next year because it didn't sell very well.
Yep, Motorola was worse for that. They just chuck everything at the wall.
Everything. Like, hey, let's make a phone with modular pieces and a projector and whatever.
Cool. It was fun, but like,
but it doesn't work, and they spend a lot of money in R&D only to like lose the investment. Apple will wait. We'll wait. Yep. Once they see what's sort of hitting off, they've already seen AR. They see AR, AI, VR, all of these like new methods of like computing, getting some steam with Meta and Oculus and all that. And they're like, hey, we can do all of that. We may have an OS. We have an app system. We have computers. We have the silicon and the engineering to build this. Let's build one. See what we can do with it. And so it's exciting. Yep. As an ex-Apple employee, I have major FOMO about this.
But trust me, I'm there with you. I am there.
Huge FOMO. I want to touch this. I want to play with this.
You know, I used to work for Apple too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know. Not Apple corporate. I worked at Apple retail for 3 years.
Still. So the Apple retail store was always great.
And like that's what with the FOMO for me is like, God, I would love to be in the store and have the job of like setting these up and introducing people to this tech and getting to know it.
It's exciting. Like I always thought it was, everyone says like, oh, well, Apple fans are they drink the Kool-Aid and all that. But it's like, the interesting part about Apple is that they do things their own way. Side piece. I don't know if you follow Zach Jerry Rig Everything. So he recently put out a video yesterday, actually, on how he used an iPhone 15 Pro for 100 days. and he was talking about some of the things that he liked, some of the things that he didn't like, some things that he hated. What was interesting about that was a lot of his gripes in the entire video was things he couldn't do things the way he's used to doing them on Android.
Yep.
A good example that he had was like, there's no back button. There's no back button. Why is there no back button? I don't get it. And I'm like, and then he had all these other specific gripes, and yes, some of them were valid. Like one of the big ones was like, I can't automate or schedule a text message. Sure. And I'm like, you're right. You really can't do that. And that's a good one. But then he also had gripes like, oh, I can't get to settings fast enough. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You've got an iPhone Pro. You've got like 15 different ways of doing it. Android fans would always argue that, oh, Apple locks you up. You can't do anything on Apple. Right. But Apple in the past like 4 versions of their iOS have added all sorts of like things in the background, like their focus, their shortcuts, and their widgets make it so that you can do all sorts of things. You just have to go in there and script those things. You have to actually write that shortcut or create that shortcut. So isn't that what you complained about? Like Android fans always say like, oh, they don't give enough customization. Now they give you a whole engine to you could say, do this, and the phone will just run through a script and do all of this automatically in the background for you. And one of his complaints was, I can't open settings fast enough. And I'm like, but you have an iPhone 15 Pro that you're using. It's got a whole button that you can map to do anything you want.
You can literally map it to open settings.
You can literally map the button to do what you're asking.
You can even map it to open a specific part of settings.
Yeah. Or I saw a whole video where you can map, where you hit the button and then it opens up a menu. To do so then you can write a whole script to basically show you a bunch of buttons and icons to do whatever you want. So like a lot of these gripes were because, and again, it was back to the idea that you use Android, you learned how to do things with Android in one way, and then you jump to another language and then you expect it to be exactly the same, and it's not. But the thing happens the opposite way. I'm an iPhone fan or an Apple user. I know how to do everything he complained about just as fast.
Yeah.
But you throw me in an Android environment, and I'm like, why is it this way? The idiosyncrasies don't work. It's like there's certain things. So like there's no wrong way, but that doesn't mean that the way Apple does it is wrong. It's just you're not used to doing it that way. And you can't say that it's slower. It's just not the way that you do it. Also, a lot of his complaints were like, oh, I can't do it this way because Samsung does this. But Samsung is one, but Google doesn't do it that way. Like Android and Google, Samsung is not the same. Doesn't always match. The features aren't parodied equal. So I don't know. Apple in general will do things their way. There's always been complaints that Apple takes too long to release certain things. Everyone always brings up the example like, oh, you couldn't even send text messages early on an iPhone. You couldn't send picture messages.
USB-C on the phone.
Yeah, right. All these like little things that Apple took, but once it came out, they did it, and they did it in a very different way. A good example was, I always use this one, NFC payments.
Yeah.
Right. Like NFC, Google had Google Wallet for like 5 years before
for a while.
Apple Pay came out. But Apple worked very quietly behind the scenes, added NFC to their phone, and then went and talked to all of the financial companies. They talked to all the big banks. They talked to retailers, and we're like, we need you to have the sticker up. You're going to market it this way. You're going to have your banks are going to be working. You're going to be able to add your card day one. It'll be seamless. It'll be a transition. There'll be no problems whatsoever. And then boom, it launched. They gave it a name. They gave it Apple Pay. And then everyone was talking about it. You had commercials for it and everything. And then boom, all of a sudden Google had to like restructure, and they renamed Apple Wallet, Google Wallet to Google Pay. And then Samsung had to make a payment method. And then then Samsung was competing with its own infrastructure because they were on Android, but then we were running a separate payment option. It's just like this whole thing. But you already had it. Why are you afraid that Apple did it? It's because they marketed differently.
Right.
To this day, Google still doesn't have a competitor to FaceTime.
No, yeah.
I mean, there are 50 other ways to do video calls on Google, but it's also like, if you've got an Android phone, I've got an Android phone. Well, okay, do you have Samsung? I've got a Pixel. Well, okay, well, what app are you using? Oh, you're going to use WhatsApp? Okay, I'll use WhatsApp, and then we can video that way. Or log into Messenger, and I'll use WhatsApp. But there's no Google built-in way to like just hit a button and it's built into the operating system to video chat. Why? Why are we like 15 versions into Android and don't have that?
Right.
Makes no sense.
I mean, I think it's just like how these companies prioritize what they believe people actually do with their technology.
Right.
And I think like to me, the Android sort of model has always been more interested in features as a way of selling a product, but also as a way of distinguishing a product from the other. And I think Apple has always been more interested in like behaviors, right? Like what are the behaviors and the language we want our customers to understand their technology with?
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point. Another thing is I always make this analogy here. It's like the products are the Apple sells you products, and their operating system and their phone is the product that you're buying.
Yeah.
They are making money by selling you products. Google, sad to say, man, Google makes money by selling you Google. Like they make money because they are literally like their entire model is mining information. Like everyone always says, oh, well, Google Assistant is better than Siri, or Amazon Alexa is better than Siri. There's a reason for that, folks. It's because you've got thousands and thousands of people feeding it information. It knows everything about you. And then you wonder why, like, I was talking with my friend in my room, and then all of a sudden, like, I started getting ads for this. And I'm like, yeah, man, your Alexa was like listening to you. Like it knew all of that. That's how it works. So Siri is dumb. I know it is. It's dumb because it's not doing that in the same way. So
to go back quickly to like kind of what you were talking about with the Vision Pro too, I think you're right to compare it with the Apple Watch and the launch of the Apple Watch and like the kind of levels that like the price points and all of that. I think the other thing it reminds me of is the Newton. And
oh man,
in terms of like a really interesting and specialized product that's definitely forward thinking. Right?
Yeah.
That's priced in a way that like nobody's spending that kind of money on this kind of thing right now.
No.
Right. Because the Newton, I think it was like $700 at launch, which is like $1,500.
Yeah, it's like $1,500, like with inflation.
Money,
yeah.
Right. And I mean, obviously the Apple Pro is more than that, but I think conceptually, right, you can get to like people spend $500-$700 on a like a VR set, right?
Right.
And in the same way, like people were spending like a couple $100 on like a beeper back then, right? But the
well, people will spend $1,500 on a new phone, but but their phone is their phone, right? Like it's something that they know that they're going to use every time.
Right. So yeah, I think that's the other product it reminds me of, and it'll be interesting to see which side of history this launch ends up landing on. Like,
the
Newton, the timing just wasn't there for it. I think, right, the ecosystem wasn't developed enough for it. The watch, people were ready for that. As soon as it was out, people were like, "Oh no, I see exactly how this fits into my life." So I'm curious to see where the Vision Pro lands in that. Like, does it actually push this kind of interaction into a space where it's like, nope, I do want this in my life in a way that I didn't understand I wanted it before? Or is it kind of just in a space like the Newton where it's like it doesn't know where to be right now? I think that's gonna be the thing to keep an eye on.
That's the conversation. I'm waiting for the next version. I know we're gonna get like a $999 version eventually, like a $1,000 version, maybe a little lighter, maybe there's just all sorts of things that Apple's going to do to refine this. I mean, just a perfect example to this, folks. This is $3,500. It's $3,500 that it's coming out day one, and it's still not. It's shipping with a processor that's already old, right? Like it's like they announced the M3. It's shipping with an M2 processor. There's nothing wrong with that. The M2 still leaps and bounds. It's a great processor, but it's like it just goes to show that like they're using a processor from last year because like, hey man, like this is what you're gonna buy, and that's the way it works. I am the fit and finish. The fit and finish of Apple has always been phenomenal, but also like I'm interested to see the reviews on this because they're already like I can already see it. It's a metal headset with glass, and I've already seen like MKBHD put up a tweet. He was already saying like this thing is great, but it's heavy. It's heavy, and I'm like,
I saw another tech reporter talking about like they swapped it out with the other like strap, the one that's not the fabric one, and there's like a kind of like a heavier like plastic or like aluminum one, and the fit was a lot better, but again the weight, right? And then that's like another kind of accessory to have to think about.
Yeah, so that's interesting that Apple's kind of like doubling down on this like fit and finish. Like we got the AirPods Max, and those were the complaints were like they were good, but the complaints were good, but the complaints were sound. They were like they were like, hey, they're heavy, they're metal, they kind of hurt my head up here because headphones should feel comfortable, should be soft, and this is hard and rigid. And I get the fit and finish of Apple is like metal and aluminum and like glass and all of that for better or worse. I mean, they are a company that likes their like specific material. Their material language is very known.
Yeah.
But the headset might not be where to go with this. Like they need to really go with like plastics and lighter. If you want people to sit in this thing for 5 hours at a time, you can't really.
This is one area where, like you said, I think Apple tends to be a little bit stubborn with this, right?
Yeah.
Because, like when you think about like what they did with like the fine woven cases last year, right?
Yeah.
And like how kind of poorly received those were. And then if you talk about like those headphones as well as this headset, those are things where, with a MacBook, if it doesn't feel ergonomically perfect, it's still just a laptop. And as long as it touches well, like that's good enough. But if it's something you're wearing,
Introducing
you want that fit.
Apple Vision Pro.
This thing is
The
nuts.
era of spatial computing.
And again, just pay attention because you have to look at this. And again, just for people that aren't Apple fans, you have to understand Apple doesn't care about the competition. Just remember that. Apple, when you see a Samsung commercial on TV, especially after an Apple event or whatever, there's always going to be like the jabs at Apple. So Samsung will mention Apple and show the Apple product more than their own product sometimes.
Yeah.
And Apple doesn't do that. Apple, people are going to look at this and go, but I can already do this with an Oculus. It doesn't matter. None of those products exist for Apple.
Right.
For Apple, it's their product and the way they're doing it, and that's what matters. Whether you've done this or not is irrelevant. They're going to use the language. They're going to term it they're going to market it a specific way. They're going to use, they're going to use Retina display. Well, what does Retina display mean? What resolution is that? Retina display QR, Retina display Q.
Yeah.
They're going to name it because that's what they do. They speak their own language.
When you put on Apple Vision Pro,
I'll say this: the materials
and
look
everything in it.
like they would feel
Your
amazing,
favorite
right?
apps
Like
live
that
right
stretch.
in front of you.
So good.
But now they're
I'll
in your
also say
space.
this too: if it's actually this clear on the
Vision
pass-through,
OS,
if it's anything
Apple's
approaching,
first ever
So all the reviewers that I've read and the tech people that have actually commented on it that have it in their hands have all said, the pass-through is amazing. So far, nothing comes close to it.
like,
And-
so
and-
I got the Meta Quest 3 just like a month ago.
Okay.
And it
How
has-
is that?
It's good. I like it. It has pretty good pass-through, but it's like
It's like magic.
It's still looking through a camera. It's still looking through
it's like looking
have
through like a
dimension.
480p camera. Like
React
it's
to light
PC and it doesn't
and
it's
cast
not very
shadows.
real timey. If it's anything like
Even though
this,
these spatial
the experience is going to be
experiences
so
happening
much better.
inside
Yeah, I mean, everything that I've heard is they're
It
saying that it's the pass through is
sounds, and feels
absolutely
like
magical.
they are
Like
physically
that's the one thing. The pass through is night and day different than anything else.
Foundational to Apple
The
Vision
spatial
Pro
awareness
that
is
you're
better than
not
anyone else so far.
isolated from other
And then,
people. When someone else is in the room, you can see them, and they can see
I
you.
do hear people saying this eye thing is weird for folks.
yeah, because it's not your eyes. It's
Yeah.
like it takes a picture of your eyes and then
Because
like
you're not limited
It
by a
animates
display.
something that it's
animates
approximating.
something.
Apps live in your space. Your photos can be life-size, or
One thing I'm
any
excited for,
size.
so I have the iPhone
So your living
Pro
room
Max,
becomes
and
a gallery.
that's
Take some of that
the ability to
spatial-
record the spatial video.
And
Yeah, I haven't done
panoramas
any yet,
wrap
but
around
I
you,
mean I
as
have
if
it
you're
too.
right
I mean
where
I'm
you
using it
took
right
them.
now, and I'm wondering to like I haven't filmed any videos on it, so I want to film some and then
Apple
like
Vision Pro
play around
is
with
Apple's first ever 3D camera.
this thing.
Now you can capture photos and videos with remarkable depth and relive a memory as
Man,
if you're right back
it
in
really
the exact
feels,
moment.
the way they do this marketing really feels beyond parody. This it's straight up. This is like Black Mirror.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Experiences on Vision Pro can also expand in 3 dimensions, filling the entirety of your space. Like in the Mindfulness app, where
Apple,
you
man.
can create
I know.
a moment of calm.
I'm so glad you brought this up, man. I'm always down to talk through the kind of like Apple strategy stuff. I think it's super fascinating. I always-
Apple Vision Pro brings the scale and wonder of a movie theater to whatever space you're in. It automatically darkens and
But
casts a
see that we
beautiful
talked about that
glow
before you
into the
jumped
room.
on. Apple is very specific,
can make
and
the screen
like I said,
as big as you want.
Apple's product is always the product.
Spatial audio
Google's
surrounds
product
you
is
and
you.
makes
You
feel
are
like
their
you're
product.
part of the action.
Well, and they already have that biometric if you use Face ID, right?
Yeah. So they have the
They've been doing
biometrics,
for years.
but one of their big things, and again, when I worked at Apple, and we would always talk about apple.com/privacy, and we'd tell people go read that page. That is big. They've been their big mantra, and everyone always thinks like, oh, everyone's the same. They mine your data. Apple really is all about that whole like keeping your specific biometric information saved
all
on
on
your
device.
personal device, on device, not uploaded to the cloud. No one can have it, which is again why Siri is dumb.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't remember or know anything about you. It doesn't send anything back. It sends specific data, but none of your own personal information. And so this biometric thing, when I was part of the launch team for the watch, I used to help a lot of the early testing and early training for that. And one of the big features was all the health data that this has. We had to do a lot of HIPAA. It was one of the things, HIPAA training and all that and they were very adamant that because this thing, takes heart rate and it holds on to like medical data and all of that, we can't touch that.
Yeah.
And so we would get customers all the time and be like, I just wiped my phone. All of my data is gone. It's like, it's gone. We can't back that up unless you have encrypted cloud backups turned on.
Yeah.
If you don't have that turned on, Apple can't touch it. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to be liable for any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing that you brought up. But it's not. Honestly, Apple won't use any of that because they don't want to.
It's an interesting like tactical decision from them, right? Because like you said with Siri, but also with other things in terms of like how backups function, like it does put them behind in the feature race.
It does. Everyone
ways.
wants these new features from Apple, but they have to understand that there is a freedom you give up with those features. And people don't understand that. I always have to really explain it. Siri's never going to be as good as Alexa or as Google Assistant because they don't mine your information that way. And so like, do you want privacy or do you not? Well, Apple doesn't see my privacy. How that's such a farce. I'm like, no, but really, dude, like that's what their mantra is. They have a whole page dedicated to that.
I mean, I think it's such an interesting, it's the tension Apple has with the sort of tech community has always been fascinating to me because on the one hand, it is walled garden, right? You don't have the freedom to tinker that you have on the like Android platforms or other platforms available to you that you can kind of get down to the root and all of that stuff. And Apple's like, no, we want you to do it a specific way. We're interested in these behaviors because we think these behaviors are the best way to interact with our products. And they'll say that openly. And that annoys the hell out of like a lot of
it does. I want to do things my way. And I'm like, but we didn't design it
on the
that
flip
way.
side, the privacy is something that a lot of tech folks also know is really valuable and they want. So it's super interesting the way Apple is positioned conversations like this.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying Apple is completely altruistic. They do there are things that they do, but specifically the privacy side, I will say if we're gonna compare Google to Apple when it comes to privacy, again, their product, again, they make money by selling you a $3,000 headset. They don't make money by selling you a $150 headset with an operating system that talks to Google all the time. And everything you do and input and all of that is just mining and feeding the machine.
Right.
That's the difference. So that's why this thing is so expensive. There's lots of R&D that has to be paid for. And it's not being paid for by mining you.
Bring in a
it's also this expensive because it is literally a MacBook strapped to your head.
It is a MacBook
with like
Pro.
a billion cameras and like sensors and other things. Like
it's like 17 cameras.
Is crazy.
Vision
I would
Pro
be
is a wonderful way
if they're
to
making
play
money
your
on this
favorite games.
Yeah, no.
Just connect your controller and play on a massive screen with incredible audio.
And it's got the M2 on it, so it's got a great graphics engine on it. So yeah, you could totally play games on it. I mean,
with Apple Vision Pro, you can create the perfect workspace, no matter where you are. The web comes to life at fantastic scale. Text is crisp and easy to read.
Yeah, everything that I've read so far has
Browsing
been
the
like,
internet
it looks cleaner because the DPI and all of that is very good. And the way that it uses
and
focusing,
expands,
it looks right
so
at your,
you can see
pupil.
all your open tabs.
The part that you're looking at right there is like super, super sharp, and everything else is kind of got this bokeh. But it's non-intrusive, like it's very subtle.
Your favorite apps from Apple and the App Store are there.
And you've already got an app ecosystem.
However you like.
So all it's going to take is like, oh, this game, you already own it on iOS. You can just re-download it on the headset, and then now you get like a VR version of it.
I'm looking at it now. FaceTime looks and sounds
So do you know anybody that's going to get
in
one
Apple Vision Pro
that you'll be able to try out?
I have to look. I have to talk to my old Apple contacts. I'm pretty sure I'll have one or two people that don't get it.
As if
but
they're right in front
honestly,
of you.
not in
The
person.
conversation is more natural, and collaborating becomes even
I don't think
easier.
I'm going to have it.
And because you see the world around you, you can glance at a notification
Still back at the store that might be able to get a hand on it, but
and even connect your Mac simply by looking at it, turning a 13-inch screen into a giant display.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's specific reasons for that. None. None for that specific.
It will all be there.
It'll all be there, sir. It'll all be there.
Like on a plane.
That software thing is interesting, but there was reasons for that as well.
Location.
I'll talk about
And
that.
you control just how immersed you want to be.
So
I dig the idea that you like zoom in and out. So like if you bring it in, you see more of the world, but if you pull it back out, it just hides everything, but you still see the
to
screen.
Make all these digital
I think the idea of having this on a plane is maybe the most compelling case.
Well, I have the X Reels, like
Apple Vision Pro is
they're great.
compact.
They're great. I put them on when I've
That's
used them on a flight or two, and you put them on, and like, boom, you're right. I can watch a movie.
Glass
I've got 130-inch screen that I'm watching a movie on. This is even more, because this even wraps around completely.
A lightweight aluminum alloy frame that gently curves to wrap around your face.
But aluminum is so heavy,
a
folks.
modular system.
That's interesting.
So you can find the right fit.
I mean, I'll say this: even the Meta Quest 3 feels a little heavy and tiring and fatiguing on my face after a while.
Frame gently flexes and
so I'll be curious if this is actually that much worse. Because if it is, then
the headband is 3D knitted.
I had to buy a different kind of strap for my Meta Quest.
Yeah, I have a separate strap on my Quest 2,
and
like a bigger one with like a battery on the back. But it also helps with like the front not being as heavy, so like kind of evens it out.
Because you wear Apple Vision Pro and your eyes are covered, we engineered a system
this is crazy.
That uses
this is like
machine learning to represent you realistically.
So I think this is going to end up being weird, and I don't know if people are actually going to like
reflects your face
but
and hand movements.
This is my favorite
when you're
kind
chatting,
of thing about how Apple thinks as a company.
People see your eyes,
because
hands,
what they
and
realize
true
is there's a serious challenge that all headsets have right now,
to
in
convincingly
that it cuts you
place
off from the rest of the world in a way that
took
feels bad to everyone. It feels bad to you when you get interrupted if you're wearing it. It feels bad to people who don't know if they should interact with you. And so they've done things to try and solve that in a way that nobody else has tried to solve it. And I don't know if it's going to work, but I hope it's the kind of thing that drives more people to attend to that problem.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of like bringing in a visual representation of you is very Ready Player One in a way, right? But like at the same time, it's exciting. Like someone is finally doing it.
Apple Vision
Yeah.
Pro
and yeah.
So I see you asking about how would it be for PC gaming, and I mean I think the M2 processors are doing really well for a lot of different kinds of games. The GPU that's built in there is pretty strong, and
it's all a matter of developers really tackling it.
Right.
It's that, and also, let's say for example, if Apple makes the API friendly enough where you can then like attach this to Steam for Steam VR.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't see why not.
Like Apple Vision Pro required an innovative dual chip design. M2 provides phenomenal performance. And a brand new chip.
Well, I might have to start wrapping up here, man.
Yeah, no, we're gonna wrap up. Let's end it here. Hour and a half, and more. We started late, but yes, this is exciting. It goes on sale tomorrow. The price is super expensive.
$3,500.
$3,500. It is absolutely
get out.
Yeah, it's absolutely not attainable. It's unobtainium by normal standards, but it's exciting for what it is.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see it live out there, and I want people and developers to play with this. This is one of those things where like I just want people to get it, developers to make something exciting, and then next year we get a cheaper version, and then I'm all in. All in because, like we talked about earlier, I think the way personally I'm a fan of Apple. I mean, heck, I'm wearing an old hoodie from them. Like I think when they do things, they do it in a very specific way, and yes, they lock you down, but when they do it. It feels complete in a way. Like it feels like they thought about the nuances of how you would feel doing that particular thing.
Yeah.
And just like I said about like digital payments or FaceTime. No, to this day, like they killed it with those two features, even though those two cameras were on phones before they made FaceTime, but yet
Skype existed. Right. Yep. 100%.
And so Apple's marketing and way of doing things will then make people like Oculus go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That works. Let's do it that way. And then it causes that shift where other companies will then see. So when Apple's in the mix, it makes people like Oculus and other companies better.
Yeah.
So exciting times. If you're going to buy one, let us know. I would love to know someone that buys this on purpose.
100%.
I can't
shout it out if you get one.
Please, I mean, please shout it out and or hide it from your spouse or whoever else that they don't know, because I just can't. Like I couldn't even. I thought about it. I was like, how can I even justify this? And like,
oh man, that's like 2.5 mortgage payments.
It's like, how do I can't even think about like how I would like what's my tech budget? Like I can't even I would have to go, I'm not gonna go to PAX. I'm not gonna buy like a video game for the next like 6 months. I'm not gonna I have to sell maybe should I sell this old gadget for like $500 to throw? I can't even come up with the budget for it. So but exciting times for sure. But yeah, not use these outside that one time on Wipeout, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, but that's a perfect example. Is Sony tries to do this and they market it, but then they stop supporting it.
I mean, that's the Sony peripheral problem, right? I think they drop things out there and they're like, oh, people will get it up. I bet. I'm sure.
Yeah. The Portal. Here's the Portal. Here you go, guys. Exactly. It's streaming. Here you go. Go find it. Go play with it.
Yeah. Or the Move. Or the Move. The camera they had, or any of these things. Yeah.
Any of the things, like you name it. Here's the Vita. We'll announce a bunch of games for year one, and then the next developer conference we have after it launches, we will never mention it again.
Yeah.
It's like what?
It's done forever.
Done forever. All right, folks, thank you so much. An hour and a half. Thank you for joining us late, but it was great talking. Go check us out if you missed it. Go rewind and watch the beginning of it. We talked about the developer conference at Microsoft and all the games and that they announced, and then this thing, the Apple thing. But yeah, we'll be back next week. And Jordan, thanks so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. Have a good one, everyone. Be kind. Another episode in the can. Take care, everyone.
See you later.